Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and once again, I've got a very special treat for all you tech enthusiasts out there. Joining me today is the CEO and founder of a company called Kore.ai, which stands at the forefront of conversational AI platforms and solutions. And one of the things that set off my tech spidey senses was their experience optimization platform upgrade, and how it is on a mission to change the game when it comes to developing intelligent virtual assistants. It's all anyone's talking about now, from smart co-pilots to AI-assisted dialogue nodes. But to many business leaders that have been blindsided by this AI revolution, it can feel incredibly challenging and daunting. So today, I want to take a deep dive into the innovative world of conversational AI, demystify this space, and understand how businesses can leverage Gen AI and large language models for the creation and deployment of intelligent conversational experiences 5 times faster, with 1/3 of the operational efforts required compared to conventional methods. And hopefully that's got your attention. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to the US, where today's guest is going to share his journey, the transformation of his platform, and what all these advancements and emerging technologies, what they mean for businesses around the world. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Raj Koneru. I'm the founder and CEO of Kore.ai. We're a conversational AI and generative AI platform and solutions company. So we provide that using conversational AI result in better, customer satisfaction, higher NPS scores, and automation of many of those interactions. All that is done in natural language. So we deploy NLP capability and orchestration capabilities to manage those conversations.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast today. And one of the things I always try and do is take my guests back in time, or the business back in time, and find out a little bit more about the origin story. So to set the scene for our conversation today, can you just offer a bit of an overview of the journey of Kore.ai and how it has positioned itself as the world's leading enterprise conversational AI platform? Because it's a hot space to be in right now, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's not. If you remember, before Slack came out and before WhatsApp became popular, the world of communication was moving from, email and phone calls to messaging. So we started out by wanting to build out an enterprise messaging platform. And rather than just limit ourselves to enable one employee to be able to message another, we went beyond that to also enable an employee to message with their systems or the applications that they use. But we were a little late to market in that space, and Slack sort of was already being used pretty heavily in the small enterprises and growing into the large enterprise market. And when we focused on the large enterprise market, the customers looked at messaging and said, well, in the large enterprise at that moment in time, email was still, fine by then. And they had some tools like Skype for Business or Jabber, which they were comfortable with. So we then showed them the communication by a user with a machine, or in being able to execute actions inside of an application using conversation. And that caught their eye. And basically that became the pivot that we did towards conversational AI, because large enterprises overwhelmingly told us that, hey, if we could talk in natural language to our applications, that would be awesome. To the drawing board, built out 3 different NLP engines to enable understanding the intent of a user state or data that the user gives you, and then map that to a dialogue or to a question answering system to be able to then communicate with the user. So that took us another 1.5 years or so. So we released the first version of the conversational AI platform in early 20s. Conversational AI was not very well understood by enterprises in general, and the use cases where they could use the technology was not clearly, understood either. So we did a lot of POCs and pilots and sort of became a pioneer in this space, educating the enterprises about how to use the technology. And then from 2018 onwards, things took off. customer service automation, employee service automation became the primary use cases. And our platform then went from version 1 in 2016 to now we are in version 10. And it's a pretty broad and deep platform that caters to all kinds of use cases, both customer-facing and employee-facing, but importantly, at very large scale. So we handle, we auto-link calls for and over 20 million chats for them. We automate over 150 million calls for a large health insurance company, basically. So, and a large e-commerce player, in fact, one of the largest e-commerce players, uses our platform for all of their AI needs, essentially. So now we're executing at very large scale, and now we see over the last few years just the demand go through the roof. Like, Neil, it's a hot space. Every large enterprise is using this technology, to improve their experiences, and we are at the forefront of that.
And for a lot of people, they're hearing about this stuff for the first time. Everyone's getting excited about it this year. And one of the reasons I asked that question, I think it's so important to highlight that 9-10 year overnight success story that you've been on, and it's phenomenal what you've achieved. And one of the things that put you on my radar was the launch of your experience optimization platform upgrade, where you introduced additional features like a smart co-pilot and AI-assisted dialogue node. So I'm curious, how do these additions revolutionize the bot development process for enterprises? Because we will have a lot of business leaders listening. It'd be great to hear more about the kind of problems that you're solving with it.
For that particular new version of the platform, we introduced some of these features using the large language models that became more mature at the end of last year and became available both in open source and commercial constructs this year. So essentially speaking, when you think about leveraging generative AI, the biggest use case for generative AI is actually conversational AI, because that's where the large volumes are. You could use generative AI to generate marketing content, generate automatic emails, summarize some content. All that is great, but the volumes don't exist there. The volumes exist in interactions. Your customers interacting with the enterprise or the employees interacting with the enterprise. So when you try to change those experiences, before we put out this upgrade to the platform, there was a bunch of activities that a customer had to do to build that experience within our platform. And that would certain of those activities, required a lot of manual effort. By using generative AI, we can generate training data, we can generate testing data, we can automatically generate a sample conversation design which somebody can eyeball and either adopt or modify and then adopt. So a lot of the design time capabilities, what you call smart co-pilot, basically, that we introduced, made it easier for an enterprise to build that experience, whether it's customer-facing or employee-facing. The AI-assisted dialogue, which we now call Gen AI Dialogue, was a first use of generative AI to automatically handle a dialogue. So if you use an LLM, you don't want to get into the world of, it hallucinating. So you want to control it. You want to be able to put guardrails around what you want the dialogue to be and what business rules it should adhere to, what information it should collect from the end user, and what the goal it needs to accomplish. So I'll give you an example. For example, we have this use case that we created for a pizza company, where it's a pizza order to Gen AI dialogue to do by explaining within our platform, by giving a textual description of what the dialogue ought to be, what the business rules need to be adhered to, like, each pizza can have only 3 toppings, you can only have 2 pizzas within an order, things like that. Again, you outline what is the input you take from the users in terms of toppings, in terms of crust, in terms of whatever, that the choices the user has to give input for. And finally, what is the exit? How do you conclude the order? And when is the order complete? So by providing that input behind the scene, we automatically generate the appropriate at each, step of the dialogue, essentially, which then goes to an LLM, and the LLM produces the content for the dialogue, essentially. So now you don't need to manually describe a workflow. The workflow is dynamic, and it's dynamically generated by the LLM based on the guardrails that we put into the prompt. But we also have runtime usage of LLM. So NLP was pretty manual in the past. We had 3 NLP engines. One is the machine learning engine, where we used to use blank slate, models like DNN models like LSTM or CNN or whatever. Those models, you had to provide your own training data and make sure the model was correctly trained. Was it overtrained or undertrained so that it would understand most users, basically to get to a understanding accuracy of over 95%. So that was quite an involved effort. And then we have a meaning that we created, which doesn't use machine learning, which uses language understanding. And then we also created a knowledge graph, an ontology, which you could use to also understand what the user does. But with the LLMs, with the state of the LLMs today, like OpenAI's GPT 3.5, or even if you can give no training, or if you give very little training, you're able to achieve 95% accuracy. So we created something called a zero-shot model, which essentially means zero training, which we integrated with OpenAI's GPT 3.5, where whatever the users say and extract out that it is, and we get pretty high accuracy with that, 95, 96, 97%. But then you have to pay OpenAI for every call, essentially. So the other model we created was called a zero-shot, or a few-shot model, which uses a different LLM, which is an open source LLM, so there's no cost to use it. So essentially use it for the outliers, instances, essentially. So that also produced, we used LLMs both at design time with the Smart Copilot and the Gen AI dialog to make it easy, faster, to be able to create that experience. And we created these models to be able to make it much more accurate in the understanding capability at runtime. So that's a significant amount of effort. 82% of our customers use our cloud-based deployment, and therefore all of them use the LLM-based, upgrade that we gave them. The rest of the customers are on-prem, and some of them have upgraded to the latest version, and others are on the way. So basically, we made it a much more sophisticated platform than it was before that.
And not just sophisticated, I would imagine as well, combining Gen AI, large language models, and other emerging technologies. I would imagine that helps streamline and simplify things like bot development, especially in terms of time and effort reduction. Is that what you're seeing here as well for businesses?
Absolutely. And that's done because of the heavy lifting is being done behind the scenes. And so all of the prompting to the LLMs, putting the guardrails in place within those prompts to direct the LLM to give us the appropriate output is all done behind the scene in our platform. But on the surface, for the creator of a bot, we made it easier and simpler. The user of the bot, the end user of the bot, we made it much more pleasurable. So we also measure sentiment within our platform. So as you converse with the bot, we measure the sentiment. And based on the sentiment, we use LLM to rephrase what the standard response is so that it is more in context. But that rephrasing, prompting the LLM to rephrase it is again in a controlled fashion, using the sentiment scores and using the context that we do within the platform, essentially. So yes, there's benefits both for the creator and the end user because of the work that we've done in the platform to use the LLMs appropriately.
If we take another area in business that I know a lot struggle with, enterprises often face challenges in developing things like IVAs due to intricacies involved in understanding domain-specific requirements, things like user behaviors and business processes, etc. So how does the Smart Copilot feature in particular alleviate these kind of challenges for developers too?
Well, there's some of the same capabilities that I just described would be used to create a domain-specific IVA, but we also provide pre-built IVAs for various, use cases, both vertical and horizontal use cases. For example, we have Bank Assist for banking, Health Assist for healthcare, Retail Assist for retail, IT Assist for ITSM automation, HR Assist for HR automation, and so on and so forth. So for each of those IVAs, we've used the Smart Copilot as well as the runtime models to make them much more intelligent than they used to be, essentially. So it makes it easier for an enterprise to implement those IVAs, which are pre-built. Now, there's one element here that is not fully understood when it comes to domain-specific implementations, which is the ontology-based knowledge graph, basically. So that is a proprietary piece of technology that we created, where you can create an ontology for a particular domain, let's say banking or healthcare or whatever, and then create a knowledge graph on top of that, which could have a combination of questions and primarily the knowledge graph. So you're using a combination of domain-specific ontology plus LLMs to train that knowledge graph to be able to generate the right, intent and extract out the entities, which is what we do in our domain-specific IVAs that we provide.
And I think we should also highlight the AI-assisted dialogue node, which is another noteworthy feature of that upgrade. So can you expand on that and how that ultimately enables IVAs to offer more dynamic and personalized conversations to users, which again is becoming increasingly important, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the AI-assisted dialogue node is either a node within a total workflow, or it could be the entire workflow by itself, basically. Now, we described it as a node because you could be doing some pre-processing work where you may be making an API call, getting some data, and then passing that to the dialogue node, or post-processing after the dialogue node executes. Or you could have the Gen AI dialogue or the AI-assisted dialogue as an entire workflow by itself. The simplification of how you describe a dialogue is what a Gen AI dialogue does. So if you are a pizza shop owner and you want to take orders, what your orders need to look like. And you know what you want to ask your customers. And asking you to describe the transaction, basically in simple language. And then behind the scene, we use prompt engineering and guardrails that we put in place within the prompts to call one or more LLMs to automatically generate the dialogue. So the dialogue is not a scripted, for example, I may say, I want a medium crusted pizza, and then with some onions and, peppers on it. And then I may say, I want the same, but now add mushrooms for the second pizza, basically. And then I may change my mind and say, no, take out the mushrooms and put pepperoni on it, basically. So the dialogue can go in so many non-linear, there are different digressions and corrections that the end user would do, basically, that an automatically generated dialogue is much more preferable than having to describe every single digression and correction that potentially is possible. Because if you think about it, every time there is a correction to the order, you now have to execute another logic.
And on top of that, you also introduced zero-shot and few-shot models into that as well. So again, for any developers listening, how do these models integrate with the new features? And also, what additional value do they bring to that bot development process?
Well, the zero-shot model is zero training. So when you build a bot, you don't need to train it. You use it, you describe your dialogues, you input your knowledge base, and the bot understands automatically and produces the right result. So from a developer standpoint, there's zero training. There is no work involved. The few shot, but there is a cost because we're using OpenAI, for zero shot. That's the best model out there. So OpenAI cost on top of the cost of our platform is something that somebody needs to bear. The few shot model is what we truly recommend for most of our enterprise customers because it's almost as good as the the zero shot model. But the few shot model allows you to, provide certain direction to the model, basically to produce the right intent and extract out the right entities, basically with very little training. So again, as a blank slate, like the CNN or LSTM or something like that, basically where you have to give all of the training. You have to give, 10, 20, 50 utterances per intent. You need to make sure that the model is not skewed with more training for one intent and less training for another intent. So it's a balanced model. You have to make sure that you didn't give too much training or you gave very little training so that the model is able to build appropriately. There you are essentially building your own fine-tuned model or on top of a blank slate model. That's real effort, basically. The zero-shot model or the few-shot model, bring that effort down to like 5% or less.
And I'm curious, given your broad portfolio and everything from Bank Assist and Health Assist to function-specific solutions like IT Assist, how has this release impacted the capabilities of these industry and function-specific virtual assistants? Because I would imagine that this year in particular, those expectations keep rising and rising, and I'd love to hear more about the impact that this release has had.
Well, our companies out there that provide only function-specific solutions. When over the years, some of them were bought by large enterprises and deployed by them. But then those same large enterprises have come to the realization that if I buy a function-specific bot from some company, anytime I need to make any changes to that, I'm dependent on that underlying platform. So we provide these solutions like Bank Assist and Health Assist and IT Assist and whatnot with the underlying platform. Those solutions are built on our platform, and we provide the platform along with the solution. So a customer can then, modify what we've built going forward, and with Smart Copilot, and with make it easier and faster for these enterprises to deploy the solution along with the platform.
And before you came on the podcast today, I was doing a little research on you guys and everything that you've created here, and you've seen a lot of progress with a new Gale platform, a new global partner program, and strategic partnership with Emphasis. And they've been on this podcast many times over the years. Is there anything you can share about these programs, platforms, relationships, and how it will help enterprises?
Sure. So we've done a tremendous amount of work in terms of prompt engineering and putting guardrails around the prompts with the different LLMs. We've also done work in terms of prompt chaining and doing chain of thought prompting as well, as part of our own platform, the XO platform. So many of our customers came and talked to us and said, and our C-levels are asking us to use GenAI. Clearly, we're using it in your platform, in Conversational AI, the XO platform. But there are other use cases where we would like to use your capabilities, like content generation, content summarization, topic discovery, and things like that. So we conceptualize Gale, build prompts with guardrails, and try it out with different models, both open source and commercial models, and pick the right model for that prompt that gives you the best outcome. Number two, build an app by chaining these prompts together and creating a flow. And inside that flow, not only have the prompts chained together, but also have the ability to make backend calls to your systems and also execute logic so that you can create an app which then can be exposed as an API, to other applications, which then can use that to generate content or summarize content or do the non-conversational AI type of activity, basically. And number three, we are based on demand from our customers. They want a fine-tuned model on top of an LLM. So in the XO platform in the past, with the blank slate models, they would put in their data and we would create a custom model for that customer for that use case. But now they want a fine-tuned model on top of an existing LLM, which is already pre-trained, basically. And that could be an open source model or a commercial model. But there is no tooling available to make that happen, basically, for an enterprise. So we've now created a data studio, an evaluation studio, a reinforcement learning and human feedback studio, and other capabilities to enable an enterprise to bring their data in, annotate the data, label that data, then generate a model or a fine-tuned model or fine-tuned on top of an existing open source or commercial model, then do an evaluation of that model by doing testing, and then use human feedback to supplement that evaluation, and then come out with a final model, which they then can make the basis of a GenAI app, basically, or use it for conversation. So Gale is a platform which is purely focused on GenAI use cases, whereas XO is a platform that's focused on conversational AI use cases. And both Gale and XO at the foundation layer use multiple large language models to accomplish those tasks, basically. Now, in terms of partnerships, we've had over 100 partnerships, over the last 3 or 4 years, those partnerships. So we've now created a structure around our GSI partnerships, SI partnerships, BPO, reseller partnerships, and OEM partnerships, so that we can provide the right level of support for the right level of commitment on both sides of a partnership, basically, so that we can make it much more streamlined. That was the purpose of the partnership. They took over our professional services arm, basically, and now they have our professional services business unit. And they're taking that business unit and tripling that in size by the end of next year to about 500 people, and then doubling that to 1,000 people the year after next. So rather than we growing a professional services unit, we gave them our best people to seed their practice, and then they're growing their practice over a period of time. And they are a preferred platinum partner, so we're going to work with them closely, to make sure that our customers are successful. I mean, obviously, our best people are there with them, so we would go to them first to provide, the services that our customers need on our platforms and solutions. But we also have partnerships with others like Cognizant and TCS and Capgemini and Accenture, Deloitte and PwC and people like that who are also growing practices independently.
Wow, it feels like an incredibly exciting time for you all. And obviously, we're racing towards the end of 2023 now. There's only a few months left. And 2023, I suspect, will be remembered the year that AI or Gen AI went mainstream. But as we start to look at where do we go from here, what happens next, looking forward, what vision do you have for the conversational AI landscape? And are there any other exciting projects or features in the pipeline or any teasers that you might be able to leave us with today on what we can expect next year?
Yeah, so there are three different stories there. Number one, I think Gen AI would change everything, basically. And I think we're going to get into a world of disillusionment next year with Gen AI, or I would call a world of realism about where it can actually be used by enterprises. And then the adoption will start, I think, sometime late next year for real world use cases. See the growth of the use of Gen AI for real world use cases from 2025 on. So GAIN is going to be the foundation to bring that realism into the market from our perspective. On the conversational AI element, the second element, that's a story that already started back in 2018. And the use cases are, customer service automation, employee service automation. But my prediction is that it's not going to stop there. Those are the obvious use cases. But you and I sit in front of applications all day long, basically, whether it's a CRM application or some kind of business application where we put data in and we pull data out to make decisions. And I believe, my vision is that every application is going to become conversational. It's going to be natural language based. The world of having screens and menus and navigating through menus and screens, post 2025, it's going to be all conversational, either with speech or with text, basically. So I can imagine a future where you speak to your CRM application or you text your CRM application. You don't go to www.salesforce.com or HubSpot.com or whatever to be able to access that. So I believe that all applications will become conversational. So looking forward into the future, beyond the high volume use cases that we're experiencing being used for conversational AI, I think all applications will become conversational. And so there's a long road ahead in terms of transforming applications over the next 5 or 10. Right now, this year, and is expected to be a $90 billion market in 2028, 10 times larger. So we being the number one leader in that Gartner Magic Quadrant have a lot of growth ahead of us. The third element, which is the teaser that you asked me to explain.
Yeah.
If you pay close attention to what Microsoft and Google and others are about people, basically a personal assistant for a consumer or a personal assistant for an employee of a corporation. And we are in the process of launching a new product, which is an employee assistant, where as an employee, I can ask questions of the structured and unstructured data sources that I have access to, and it'll provide a coherent answer. So I could ask a question like, what is the paternity leave of the company, paternity leave policy of the company? It's that answer may come, since I have access to the document, it'll bring that answer back to me saying the paternity leave policy is, 2 months, whatever it is. Or I could ask a question from my Salesforce application saying, hey, how many deals did we close in North America last month? And what was the largest deal? Call the right API, go fetch the data, be able to then run the query on that data, construct an answer, and come back to me and say something like, we closed last month, and the largest deal was $1 million. So a lot of the productivity loss that happens by people having to search on a folder, open the file, read the file, find the information that they want, or look in their email, find an email, and read the content of the email, or open the attachment and read it to find the answer to the question that they have in their mind, will be solved with this employee assist. Currently, we've named, but that's in the process right now. And that, I think, will enable now employees to become very productive. But you can also have function-specific bots like IT Assist and HR Assist added to Kore, so that Kore becomes more comprehensive.
Wow, we've covered so much in a short amount of time, and I think you dropped so many great points down, so many reasons to get excited for the future. So for anyone listening, wants to find out more about anything we discussed today and your vision for the future, what you're working on, where would you like to point everyone listening? Because I suspect there'll be a few people wanting to contact your team, but where's the best starting point for everything?
Well, maybe just www.kore. You can reach out by email, send an email to info@kore.ai, or reach out to our, the local sales team in your country or region, basically, and we would be happy to engage with you to understand your use cases and see where our technology could be helpful in your situations.
Oh, so many big takeaways. And I love how you've introduced capabilities that help enterprises leverage generative AI, large language models, for the creation and deployment of intelligent conversational experiences. And the big takeaway for me, making it up to 5 times faster with 1/3 of the operational efforts required compared to those conventional methods. Huge talking point right there on its own. But not only that, I think I loved hearing more about your story and the origin story of the company, and how this is not an overnight thing. This is something you guys have been working on for 9 years, and I'd loved hearing the story behind it too. So thank you for sharing everything with me today.
Thank you, Neil.
So a huge thank you to today's guest. Today we explored the evolution and power of conversational AI platforms, the remarkable strides that Kore has made in this space, from starting with POCs to becoming a comprehensive solution for customer service automation, and how these new features simplify bot development. And for that reason alone, I think the future looks incredibly exciting for businesses, and those entry levels have been lowered. And for anyone interested in diving a little bit deeper, check out Kore.ai, which is their website. But you've heard from me, you've heard from today's guest. How are you navigating this ever-evolving world of tech and business? I'd love to find out more about your experiences, your insights. You know the deal. You know the drill by now. techblogwriter@outlook.com, at Neil C. Hughes on just about any social channel you can think of. But I'd love to hear from you. So hopefully you'll join me again tomorrow. But until next time, don't be a stranger.